Well, with respect to a 24-hour notice of putting this together, we decided to just go ahead and wing it and throw some photographs together and share with you guys what we've done at the Heritage Park in building this garden and everything, which we started sometime around January, I believe it was. Tom started a little sooner than us, and then we came in and started working on the project. KO here is the main person with respect to the garden. We have a small organization, it's a volunteer-based organization called Verde Ancestral Gardens. So we, as the organization, maintain the garden for the Archaeology Center. But I pretty much lay the organizational side of it on KO as far as the selection of the plants and design and everything. And over the first year, what we concentrated on primarily has been building the garden. I will allow KO to do most of the speaking because she has done most of the planning and knows it better than I do. So from this point, I'm going to turn it over to KO.
Besides which, Jerry hasn't even seen this yet. You know, you know what's up going to
I dropped the pictures off yesterday afternoon.
He dropped up some pictures, and I ran through all my pictures that I had, and, you know, and then what can we, okay. Try to think, what was the order? How did we do this? What was the order of the things that we did and all that? So, and I hope we can thank everybody who was involved. Like, I can't think of all the volunteers, but we've had a lot of volunteers and people from the board, and Tom has done so much with putting in the water for us and all that. So we'll just start out. So the whole idea was to make a garden. And I also want to tell you, Jerry and I have this experience of doing gardens because we did the garden at Montezuma as well I did for 8 years, and Jerry joined me 5 years back. So we did that for a long, long time. So most of these seeds, except for a few new ones, were actually the seeds that were grown at that garden. And those seeds came from Jerry Honau, who's deceased now. But he used to live up in Hope Villa on Clear Mesa. So he was a very well-known person in the Verde Valley. He did a lot of presentations and things down here. And he really wanted to get involved with this garden at Montezuma as well. So he brought down all the seeds. So initially, all these seeds came from Hopi. But we added a few things because Todd insisted, well, we should match what they did at the Dyke Ranch. We want to match the Dyke Ranch seed collection. And a couple of the things that they had were like temporary beans, which the Hopis don't really do. And they did some sort of a butternut squash. We just know it was a mushata. We don't know exactly what type. So I looked at Native Seed Search for one of the older butternuts I could find. So these are called Myokama, and those are butternut. But everything else was originally Hopi seeds. So these are original seeds, you know. We like to say they may have been down here at Montezuma as well. The Hopis migrated up to the mesas, and then they brought their seeds back out. So it's kind of also. And yeah, these are the Kusha squash. Do you want to go through all? I've got them up here. Do you want to go through them all, or?
Well, just use the PowerPoint.
And you guys can come up afterwards, and if you want to look at some of the things we have here and ask about them, or if you want to try planting some in your own garden, I would certainly encourage you. Maybe we can share some seeds with members.
We've had some interesting learning experiences along the way. For years over at the garden at the well, we were planting cotton, and we thought it was Hopi cotton, and an expert came along and told us we had the wrong stuff. Was it Brownish tint?
Yeah, Luis. Is that the expert textile guy?
Luis Garcia.
He thought it was Bolivian cotton. We're seeing a lot of that around. That's not Hopi cotton. Hopi cotton's always white. So we got Hopi cotton. That was one other thing we did get from Native Seed Search. So we made sure we got the right cotton. Oh, and to be fair, Jerry Honau did not give us the cotton. We got that from Greg.
Another presenter of the program we were attending.
Yeah. So that was turned out to be a mistake. The lady who wove it up for us really loved it, but it wasn't the right stuff. So here we go. So when we started here, first of all, I want to say we had this fantastic lady, Donalyn Nichols, who donated the money to put the garden in. And without her donation, there's no way we could have made such a fantastic, beautiful garden. Just having a budget was great, a substantial budget. So we were able to do things that we could never have done at the well. So that was wonderful. We want to thank, I don't know if Donovan's here tonight, but we certainly want to thank her. So the first thing the board says is, well, we need a plan and we need a budget. So we had to come up with a plan for them. Oh, I got to turn it on. So this was just, it was actually a document, but this was our concept of what it would look like. This is the trail going through, and the trail would go around the garden, so people could, walk around the garden and look in and see. We were going to keep a lock on the garden. That's one thing we learned at the well. It was kind of problematic to just leave it open to people. So this way they'd be able to walk around the garden and look through the fence and see everything. And we also wanted to have an area for native plants too. And we've done a little bit there. We'll do a lot more on that next year, I think, on the native plants. This year we kind of concentrated on the agricultural plants. So, here's where we all started. A lot of the board members were very active in putting in the trail. Tom did a big part of the trail and the water. So here's where we started. We put the sign up and got going. And here we did have to take a few mesquites and things out of the area. It was kind of open, but we still had to get a few mesquites out. And so we marked that, and they marked out the trail where the trail would be. I believe they had a lady from the Forest Service, or was it National Park Service, help with that.
We did have, the biggest volunteers for this was the old guys. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the old guys. They came down there and worked really hard in setting up the trail and everything. And then they started off helping me with the Karens also.
And while we were working on the garden, other members were working on the trail, and that also meant having to put in culverts. We've got a number of washes that go through the site, and we kind of learned a little bit more about those washes this summer. They're pretty active. And so we had a little trouble with the trail this summer, but it's all fixed up again, and hopefully we've learned some things about where the water goes and what we need to do to got bigger culverts and all that. So they worked on the trail, we worked on the garden. And we knew we were going to need a shed to put all our tools in. We had a good budget to go buy tools, and rakes, hoes, shovels, wheelbarrows, all that. And that's not exactly the most beautiful, and I don't think the Sinawans had. But our plan in the future is to maybe try to hide that with a fence, some sort of a natural-looking brush fence or something, so people won't have to look at that ugly garden shed. But it does serve its purpose. It gives us a place to put all our tools and such. And here's the pathway going around.
At the previous garden we worked at, we had to bring all of our own tools, so
Yeah.
it was a real pleasure to have the shed there.
Yeah.
Both of us would be bringing tools and forgetting stuff, or things wouldn't work, whatever the case may be.
Now, as part of our thing, we said we wanted to put in some native plants. So I had this idea that, now some of you people probably know Wendy Hutchins. She's a agave expert from the Desert Botanical Garden. And she has been studying some agaves on my property that she thinks might be domesticates. And so once they bloomed, she took a bunch of things, and she took some of the plant material, and they're running DNA tests on it and all that. And so I just called her up, or I wrote her and said, do you think, would it be okay if I put a couple of my pups in this garden? Would that be representative enough of, these domesticates of the Verde Valley? And she said, oh yeah, that'd be fine. Hey, would you like some plant material? And I said, well, yeah, sure. What can we get? We'll bring you some, we'll get agaves and some bacata yuccas. And I said, okay, great. So I was thinking like 2 or 3. No, she brought 17 agaves, 2 bacata yuccas. And then I had 2 narrow-leaf yuccas from my field and 1 agave from mine. And so doing the agaves became a major process, more than I had anticipated. And when she got here, she said, oh my God, look at those gopher poles. I said, yeah, we have gophers. Oh my God, they'll destroy these agaves. So we had to build gopher baskets. You can kind of see that right there. And we didn't know that going in, so we actually only planted one that day, and Jerry and I planted the other ones later. But you have to basically build a chicken wire basket with a bottom and sink it into the soil, and then put your plant in it. And that's it. By the way, if you're doing fruit trees here in the Verde Valley, you want to put them in gopher baskets too, because gopher baskets, they will destroy your little fruit trees. They'll just eat up your roots. So I was familiar with this whole thing. So not only did we have to do gopher baskets, but then we had to make little enclosures to keep out the javelinas and rabbits. And we'll keep those on there for 2 or 3 years, so they're big enough that they won't harm them, But for now, so that kind of turned into a big thing.
They're the most pampered plants in the Verde Valley. We also had to make umbrellas for them since they were so young to protect them from the summer heat.
Yeah, you'll see that later. You'll see these green things and go, what is that? That's the shade cloth over it. She goes, oh, and by the way, little shade cloth would be nice too over these this summer. When they're young, just when they're young.
And I'm happy to say we didn't lose one of them.
No, we haven't. They have a lot. Some of them have quite a few, what they call pups. They propagate by putting out little ones on the side. And domesticates are known for that. They tend to pup more, and they don't propagate so much from seed. That's not to say they can't, but they don't, because they've been what do you want to call it? They've been hybridized would be the word for it.
Close.
They've been domesticated by like the old days, how people would save something, and this one, I like the qualities of this one, so I'm going to get a pup from that one, and now I like the qualities of this one. And
in the Hopi tradition, they adapted to the environment.
Yeah. So here's like an agave, and there's one of my yuccas that I brought, and we thought we had lost those, but they're coming back, because I had to dig them out of the field, and they have roots about this deep, but they're coming back, so those are going to live too. Yeah, I'm sure Lucy loves that stuff. But I did want to say that's you. Tom has been really instrumental in getting the water to our garden. We had to get the water first from out at the main line into here, and then once we got into here, I said, oh, but we needed to come up here and go inside of the fence area too. So him and Lucy hand dug this by themselves, and there he is putting that in, and that would then in under the trail before they kind of put the rock and such on it. So let's get that in before that trail's totally built out. So now we have it in the garden, which is a good idea, because then people can't just come and turn it on. Vandals or something can't just come and turn it on. And then there were signage. Ken wanted to do some signage. So this is the one I worked on, but Ken did 2, I think. So there's 3 in the garden area, but then there's, if you walk the trail, there's signage all around the trail. So then the signage, we put in the trail with the hardscape, and the signage went in. And then we had to start tilling the area. And this is little toads. I said, you guys look like you're doing something. And whenever you turn up the ground, you need to have some observers. And I guess that's what you guys do a lot. So to make sure that, in case you hit something spectacular. And we have found some beautiful little arrowheads in the garden, and lots of pottery sherds, of course. So we filled up the garden, and one thing we did show you is the fall before, we brought in like 2 loads of goat poop from a lady from our farmer's market, because this soil is pretty clayey. It's pretty weird, hard clay soil, and we knew we were going to have to. I'm surprised how well the garden did for the first year in this soil because it definitely needs more compost. It needs more, it needs opening up. And if you've ever been out there when it's gotten wet, you can actually slip on this. It's almost like it has bentonite in it or something. It's very icky clay. So,
You see how thin I look there?
and then after we was all tilled, then we had to start putting in the fence. And our idea with the fence was nobody wanted to look at ugly T-posts. And we also have to keep animals out. But we couldn't do an electric fence because, this is a public installation and that would be a major insurance problem and it wouldn't look good either. So the idea here was we would build these cairns around the ugly posts and we'd fill these up with rocks so you just have these kind of pretty rock columns. And then down below here, I guess I can use this little thing, we attached kind of like an apron that comes out and then put the real big rocks on that, and that would keep javelinas out. I actually have electric fence, and I was wondering how are we going to do this, but somebody at our garden club told me, this is what we've done at our garden, and it works. You keep the javelinas out, and we haven't had any problems with javelinas, so.
Although we have seen tracks.
Oh, yeah,
Are poking around.
They're there. There's plenty of tracks, javelina tracks.
I'd like to share one thing about these rock cairns that I hadn't told Ken, but it's been a personal joke to the center itself. Throughout the years in all my exploration in backcountry and whatnot, I find these rock formations all over the place, and they're from the pioneers. And the object of the garden was to have a Native American style garden and everything. But when we were giving our presentation to Ken and Todd, he fell in love with my garden, which I have these rock cairns on also. So we went ahead and did that. So even despite the fact that it's a Native American garden, the cairns are there to honor the pioneers.
And to hide the ugly pups. And here were some of the volunteers, our first group that came out and worked on the cairns. And then the old guys came out once and worked on the cairns. And then we had a second volunteer group that came out and worked on the cairns. So, and they're still not done, but Jerry says he wants to do them because it's helping to keep in shape. So there we are, working away. And then beyond the fence, we wanted to have a nice gate. We thought, we got the money, and this is going to be a public installation, and it's, looking forward, we want this to reflect well on the center, So we said that we met a young man at our farmer's market who did metal work, and he's especially good at this cutout metal work. And he said, all you got to do is just give me a design, and and so I designed the gate. And Jake, what's Jake's last name?
Can't think of it right now.
Anyway, if you need a garden gate, he's your man. He does beautiful
Very
gates.
affordable.
He came up with the gate, and here Jerry and him installing it in the, they got the concrete down here. We had to kind of, strap it around and make it straight and all that until the concrete dried. And so there they are putting in the gate.
And she won't mention it, but KO was the designer, which became our logo for the Ancestral Gardens.
So he liked it so much he wanted it for the logo. So small, but anyway. So then the next thing, now you'll see here, these are the main lines for the drip irrigation. The way we have done drip irrigation in here for now. We wanted to see how much we could collect. You do get a little bit, because the whole place slopes a little bit, you do get a little bit in the monsoons. So we wanted to also kind of create these one rock dams, so as the water came down, it would, start to stay in our little paddies there. But we will use drip. I would love to eventually, if the center goes to, gets built, I'd love to have rain harvesting and use that with drip, because it's actually better for the plants. Right now, I decided let's just get in the main line, plant, and then we'll put in all the fine lines once we know where the plants are. So right now, this is our planting date, and some of our volunteers. And Donna, I see you back over there right now. Donna's been one of our stalwarts. Some of these people, they came once or twice, but Donna comes all the time. She's our stealth volunteer. She goes out there by herself, and Jerry kept saying, gosh, there haven't been very many weeds this summer. He went away for 3 months to do a fellowship, and he goes, well, there haven't been very many weeds. I said, well, that's because Donna comes every week and pulls them. So, well, thank Donna for that. Yes?
Is the water you're using right now fluorinated?
Yeah, that's the other thing I don't like about it. It is chlorinated. I guess there's a filter on there. That filter is really just to keep junk out of the drip. And I guess you can get a filter to take out the chlorine. I haven't experimented with that yet. But yeah, that's why chlorine isn't really that great. So, and of course, during the monsoon, we had a pretty good monsoon. We turned off the drip a lot during the monsoon. We had a pretty good monsoon. So then they got a little bit more fresh rain. But I use harvested rainwater at home. And I can tell you, the plants do much better on it. So I look forward to doing that. So here I am teaching people how I want them to plant the corn. And then, I would show them do this and then give them the seeds and let them take it away, And while we were planting the corn, all the garden, we had these 2 trees, and maybe somebody who's an expert, they look slightly different. She was another garden club. Jerry and I belong to the Verde Garden Club, and Donna does too. And we appealed to them for some volunteers. And Cynthia Rosenwald she's really into native plants. So she gave us these 2 junipers, although I think one might be an Arizona cypress. So they were busy putting those in, and those have done pretty well too. And those aren't on the drip. We have to hand water those. We wanted to put a drip on the outside of the garden. We had somebody break into our garden shed, and they stole a bunch of the irrigation bits. So then it occurred to us that probably before we do that outside bit, we do have another hose bib out there that was going to attach to. We want to build a box or something around that hose bib to secure it so people can't, fiddle with that one and fiddle with the components and stuff. I don't think they would bother with the pipe and stuff once everything was in, but they stole the timer and they stole some filters and things like that. So we will probably do that next year, but we're going to have to secure that area a little bit better. So.
And the other fellow in the picture is probably our longest traveling volunteer. He came all the way from Michigan and happened to be visiting when he heard about the garden, so he came to volunteer on that day.
Yeah. So that was very fun. It was a nice day, except it got very windy. That's one thing we found out about this site. Man, is it windy down there. So especially in the springtime, I don't even think we even got totally done planting. Some people just said, I gotta get out of here, this wreck will be great. So after everybody was done and they had planted their things, then I came back in and I put in the small lines into the main lines. So there you can see like the corn got 2 because they're pretty, they like a lot of water. So you can, and some of them just have an individual drip thing that comes out like a gallon per hour. So you can fine tune these drip systems to suit the plants. The only problem with that is like next year we won't put the corn there. We'll probably put beans there because they put nitrogen in soil, the corn kicks it out. So now these have to be moved over somewhere else. So they've all been pulled out now. I like to throw them in a vinegar wash because that pulls all the calcium that gets caught up in them. Even the Camp Verde water, believe it or not, had a lot of calcium built upon our drips. So I guess that does that. I guess they don't get that out in the city water completely. So here are some of the little plants that started coming up. We had the squash, the cotton, the corn, and everything was doing great. We took pictures and we were all excited. And then, something. Well, I know I've seen 2 rabbits. I saw caught 2 rabbits in there. We started having animals that were breaking into the garden. And some of the cottontails are so small they can get through those little tiny, they just squeeze through. And then there was something bigger, we weren't sure. So we had to come in and put chicken wire on the inside up to about 3 feet to keep the rabbits out. And then our little rocks where we had to keep the javelinas, we kind of stuffed in, every little hole we found, we stuffed little rocks in there. But even after that, it took Jerry a while to work on getting that. So we even built these little sort of cages around some of the plants, just because they kept. We also had cutworms, which I was very surprised about. And the beans would come up, the sunflowers would come up, and if you know what cutworms are, they come up out of the soil, they wrap themselves around a little stem, and they eat it. And then the thing falls down and dies, and your plant is not going to go anywhere. So we bought beneficial nematodes. And these eat the cutworms, and they come in a little package, and you mix them in water, and you water them in, and it did seem to help. The nematodes did fall off.
We also use the eggshells.
And we used, I have chickens, so we put eggshells down along it. That's another thing that can, we're putting toothpicks next to the.
We were trying everything, including an old Hopi tradition of dog poop.
No, not So we had quite a challenge between the rabbits and the insects, and then later on, grasshoppers. So we put out lots of no-low bait. Now, we did stay organic through this whole thing, because I'm an organic gardener. I like to do that. So we used up a lot of no-low bait, too, keeping the grasshoppers at bay. So, but everybody in the Verde Valley has that problem. Grasshoppers are a big problem here. So anyway, some of these things we planted 3 times. A lot of the beans, the sunflowers, some of the squash.
Here's our worst harvest.
These were, everybody wanted these so bad, the Tico lima beans, and they just, the cutworms just ate those up.
Most.
So we replanted, and eventually we did get some things up, and if we don't have a lot of certain things, it's because they kind of came up late in the season, So I put in some, when these things didn't make it, we put in some rattlesnake beans. I said it's next to the fence, and they're a pole bean, let's do that. And they're really great pole beans, but it was really hot. When it's really hot, they don't set beans, and by the time they started setting beans, then it was near frost time. We did get a few beans off them. I ate a few beans. So the other thing we did then after we got everything up and going and seems like things were okay, was we wanted to mulch the garden heavily with straw. So the interior garden we mulch with straw. That really helps cut down on your water evaporation and such. And then on the outside, since this is an edible plant, I was okay with using the transfer station mulch for that, because I don't trust municipal mulch, stuff, because you don't know what people bring there. But if it's not a food crop, and this is free, by the way, and it is a good mulch. So we mulch around all the agaves and such with that. So I'm just going to talk about some of the things that grew. The sunflowers took a lot. Those are things we planted 3 times, but once they came in, they did beautifully. We had gorgeous sunflowers. We got quite a few seeds off of them. And oddly enough, the birds didn't up too much. At my garden at home, the birds just, they just devour them. But we didn't have too many problems with the birds on the sunflower. So this is the Hopi black dye sunflower. You can take these and boil them in water, and then they will dye wool and cotton with them. And it makes a beautiful kind of you can go anywhere from lilac down to indigo with it. It makes a beautiful dye. You can also, you can eat the sunflower seeds too. They're very high in oil, these black sunflower seeds. This is a native plant that we want to have a few native plants inside the garden. This is called Devil's Claw. And I forgot to bring some along tonight. If you've never seen it, these pods here, what they do, when they dry out and they pop open, you have this, you probably have seen these out in the wild when you're hiking, they have these long kind of curled up things, and they get caught on animals' hooves, and that's how they get spread around, and they get caught on your hooves. But the Apaches use these in their basketry. They clip off the pincher part at the end, clip that off, and they clip off the main part where the seeds lodge. And they soak those, and then they can pound them and pull them apart. They pull them apart, I think, 2 more times. And the black parts that you see in their basketry, the black parts that make the patterns, is the devil's claw. And it's tougher than the other material. They used to whip stitch like the tops of baskets with it because that's where you have your wear and tear. So they want a tougher material on the tops and the bottoms. So they were often used to whip stitch around. And somebody told me they have a medicinal value, but I don't know what that is myself. I have to find that out. But I don't have them because I gave them all to Linda Russell, who lives right next door to me, and she's a member of the tribe. And she's been working with a lady who's trying to bring basketry back to the young kids down there. They're giving basketry lessons again, so I gave all the devil's claw to her. And we're kind of thinking, like, if you know any Hopis or somebody who wants cotton, we'd be happy to let them have, the cotton. Because all we need is the seeds for next year. We don't, yeah.
Let me give that to the team.
Yeah, or if they ever do a spinning class or something. Or if you have somebody who wants to do a spinning demonstration, then the center can definitely, take the cotton and do that. And speaking of cotton, and it's, if you've never seen the plant, it has a beautiful flower. It just, now I have to say this Bolivian cotton we had at the well had even prettier flower. It was kind of pink and white. But the Hopi one starts out white, kind of turns pink, and then dies off. And then here is the bowls. They start closed. I didn't have a bowl. Here's one down here. It's closed still. And as they dry out, the bowl starts to open, and then you can just pull the cotton out. I had on our Facebook page, I had a video, although I don't know if it's still there, of me picking the cotton, and you can hear it popping out of the. This is the Cushaw squash, and that's the one that's beloved by the Hopis. This is one of their mainstays, is the Cushaw. And so ours came from the Hopi seeds, and we actually, we did pretty well. One of the problems that happens in monsoons is sometimes it gets really wet, and then it gets hot, and they expand, and so we had some cracks. Hopefully, so you get those out. But you don't want to pick squash until this part turns dry. Until that peduncle, they call it a peduncle. Until that turns dry, you don't want to pick them. You want to keep them there. These squash will be good till next spring. And that's why they were an important food source for the Hopi, because you can keep these so long, So that's going to be something you can keep a long time, and you can even eat the seeds like pepitas, so there's even that value to them. It's kind of a blandish sort of squash.
We roast the seeds, though.
Yeah, you can roast them. That's what I meant. You roast them but it makes great pies. It makes better pies than pumpkin pie. So I encourage people to give these a try. And these are kind of small. Some of them we had out in the well garden you can get really big.
You might need a bandsaw to cut the shell off.
Yeah, the shells are hard. The shells are hard. They're like, as a matter of fact, there is I think we got one here. There's another one that I had from home that was my own. They kind of get this gnarly sort of thing that comes, ridges that come down, and there is something in the Dyke Ranch collection that I saw you guys had out there, and it said gourd, and I said, that's not a gourd, that's a Cushaw squash. I can tell it's a Cushaw squash. They're tough as gourds. you do have to like go at them with an axe or something to get them open. You know, you need one of those cleavers or something to open them up. So, so that was the Kusha I could tell. And they are unique in that they have these spotted leaves. And that's not a disease or anything, they just have spotted leaves. And then here was a little friend that joined us. I just thought he was so pretty. That was on it.
Oh, he is.
Now, this is the new squash for me, the myokama, which is a type of butternut. And these did beautifully. These did better than the Kusha's as far as, but I had to replant them 3 times because they kept getting, the cutworms kept getting them. But, and I said, they got to make it this time because I don't have any more seeds. I got these from seed search, and they did beautifully. I mean, they were just, they went all over that top part of the garden, and they're beautiful because they make these long, slender things. They kind of turned more tan now as they've gotten drier, but when they're growing, they're kind of a pinkish, and with these green stripes, they're really beautiful. So I haven't even tried one yet, but so I'm looking forward to opening up one of those and giving it a try and see how it compares to a modern butternut. Because I grow Walton.
How do you cook it?
Well, I would cook it probably just like a Walton butternut, like a modern butternut. I would probably bake it. I like to bake them, and I like to make pies out of butternuts too. So that one is that's a winner. We're going to keep him. Now corn. Oh, my poor corn. You know, we gave it a lot of water. It wasn't starving for water. It had plenty of water. But what happened with our corn, and this happened to me at home too, although this year I didn't do the blue corn, I did Floriana red. And I thought maybe it was the corn I was growing, but it happened here too. Right when they were throwing up their tassels was when we had that 108, 105, 108 heat wave for about a week, 2 weeks. And the tassels would just dry out. The pollen would just dry out, and so we didn't get proper pollination. Usually on these blue corn, we could usually, at the well, we were getting two ears per, sometimes three ears per stalk. And these that was our best corn. There were a few long ones, and they would just have like 4 kernels on the whole thing. So the corn was kind of a bust, unfortunately. And the corn is usually not the one the corn is usually something that always
It's
does
usually very
well.
hardy.
Yeah, so, and then, does anybody know what this is?
Whaler coach.
Yes, it is. We had some with corn smut, which is great if you're gourmet cooks.
It's
because
wonderful.
People like
It's
it.
delicious.
But it's bad if
Save
you're a
it all
farmer
for you
because
next time.
it's a fungus and you don't want it on your corn. So I took this one out and I just threw it in the garbage. I didn't even want to even introduce it into compost. But, well, next time I'll give it to you. I didn't know you loved it so much.
Jerry, I had that at Cezanne in Santa Fe. I had that. It was just amazing.
Was it good?
Oh, it was delicious.
Like
it was a little scary.
Yeah.
The kids like, you're ordering fungus? You're paying for fungus? And I said, I heard it's really good. It was amazing.
No, mushrooms are fun.
Yeah, they are.
So it's like truffles or something. So anyway, so the corn, unfortunately, was a bust. Here's our little guy. And we have a number of different types of beans. These are what are called the common beans. Now here too we lost quite a few to bugs and such. We got some of the black beans, but I had to replant so many times. I landed up just doing these Hopi purple string beans because I had a lot of those, and those did really well. So probably most of these are the Hopi purple string beans, and they tend to want to climb. The Hopis will go along with their beans, and once they get about this tall, they take your fingernail and they clip off that new little growth at the top, and they just keep snipping them, and keep them low, and it makes them put out more flowers and more beans. We weren't necessarily the best at this. You really have to be out there snipping them just every day, So those are the common beans. These are the Peppery beans. And we had a couple different types. We had this white, and we had the Sacaton black. and I think we had another one, but it just didn't do well at all. So, but they're real different. They're just kind of real fine and feathery, and they're about as big as a chiclet. You know, they're really a tiny bean. But I'll try. I might try some of these, more of these, because I've never had these before. I don't know what they taste like, but they were in the Dye Branch collection, so we said, okay, we'll do them. These are the Hopi Golden Lima. They, again, I kind of suspected that left on their own, they would be a Hopi. Again, the Hopis usually clip them, and I wasn't being good about that, and some of them got away and just climbed up our cairns. The nice thing about these is you can get about 3 crops. Now, these again were replanted, but if they come up at the normal time, like in April, you can get about 3 crops off these. Because they'll start drying out, and you pick the dry ones, they'll put out more flowers, make more, just wait till they dry, pick some more. I can get like 3 crops of these off, so they're a great bean in that you can get a lot off of just a small row. And they're really delicious, by the way. And they do very well here. They don't mind heat at all. They will set, even in the hottest nights, they set beans. So if you want to try, I would say if you wanted to try some native sort of plant, this would be a good one to try because you're not going to fail with this one. It's a very good plant.
And in the background, you see the agaves in their little cabanas.
Yeah, they're yeah, they're small.
Yeah.
And when we failed on the Hatico beans, and we didn't have any other beans, I had these rattlesnake beans, which are just, it's a bean that a lot of Native American people do, you know, even Mandans and people up in that area. They're kind of young here. They will start getting a stripe on them. That's why they're called rattlesnake beans. And they're very tasty green beans. But then, if you can let them go and dry, and they're very good dry shelling beans. And so it's a nice, so I decided to put some of these in too. And they're right up against the fence. They're a whole bean. And the other thing that was kind of a bust for us was the gourds. They just didn't do anything. We put them under the mesquite trees, and I think maybe that was the mistake. I think maybe the mesquite trees took all the water that we were giving to the gourds. The mesquite trees drank them up, because at the well we would get gourds this big. They would crawl down 20, 30 feet down the fence. They were huge, and the gourds themselves were so big we had to put slings around them so they would break the, you know. So I was kind of disappointed in the gourds. So I think next year we'll plant the gourds next to our rock cairns and let them grow up along next to a cairn. And I think they'll do better off on their own and away from the trees. So, now I took this from my home because I realized I didn't really have any good pictures from the garden, but we did have beeweed in the garden. And we planted beeweed because I wasn't sure if there was a lot of bees around there. You know, there's mesquite trees, and they would probably hang around while the mesquite trees were blooming. But I just wasn't sure if they would, if we'd have a lot of bees. And we didn't have a huge amount of bees. But the beeweed will help. It'll attract them to the area. So now next year I won't have to plant it at all, because you see all these beans? What happens is they dry out and they go boing, and you get like thousands of seeds in your garden. So it's also kind of a pest in that once you put it in your garden, you will never get rid of it. But I always let a few go in my garden too, just to encourage the bees. And so I'll probably do these, and the devil's claw did very well under the mesquite. So I'll probably do these and the devil's claw around the mesquites and move the gourds away from them.
Someone also donated some pottery to us at the beginning of the year, so we started putting water out for the bees also.
For the bees, yeah.
Sure.
So we probably should maybe build a little bird fountain. We did have some birds out there, but we just didn't have the type of little seed eaters that would like eat the sunflowers. We did have birds, not a huge amount of them, and we put out a birdhouse board hoping somebody would, but nobody took the bait, but maybe next year. we're trying to make it more friendly for wildlife,
Except rabbits.
except for rabbits. Oh, that reminds me that right about when the rabbits stopped being a problem, Ken was out there one morning and he said he saw a bobcat. And I said, there, no more rabbits. So build it and they will come. The rabbits came, then the bobcat came. So this, again, was from my garden because I don't know why I didn't have any pictures of the amaranth, but here is some of the amaranth dried. We haven't shaken it. If you've ever tried to, it has a very little tiny black seed, and if you've ever tried to winnow it, it's a pain in the butt. So I haven't winnowed this yet. I might just winnow enough for seeds for people and maybe give it to them with some of the stump still in there because it's too hard to get out. It's a beautiful plant. It's if you just wanted something pretty in your flower garden, it would be nice. Again, it's like bee weed though. Once you have it in your garden, it's going to keep coming up because it has thousands and thousands of seeds in these plants. So besides the seeds though, you can eat, when it's younger, it's small, you can eat the leaves. And they're like spinach. You can boil them up like spinach and they're high in vitamin C and A. And like I said, you can winnow out the seeds and you can, use them in the Mexicans use them in a little thing called algria, I think is what the candy is called. It's like a little bar that we use. So we had I don't know, 5 or 6 amaranths. They did really well. Once they came up and weren't eaten, they did well. So we'll keep doing our amaranth. Oh yes, and this amaranth is also a dye plant. It's Hopi red dye amaranth. So when you don't get true reds, you get more like pinks and such. But if you want to dye cotton, wool, whatever, the Hopis dye their peaky bread somehow with this plant. If you've ever had the pink, if you ever seen the pink peepee instead of the blue peepees, it's been dyed with this plant. So it's dyed for food too. So that's the end of our program, and if you have any questions, or if you want to come up and take a look at some of the plants, and I think Jerry has got a little thing here for volunteers, if you think you might want to come out and help in the garden next year.
Actually, that one's for donations.
Oh, donations!
I would like to inject a little bit. Ken just asked me to share a story that we really, at this time of the year, shouldn't be sharing or anything, but I will share that there's a lot of really positive energy in the land over there. At the beginning, there was a lot of disruption and everything, trees being pulled out and everything, and I could feel a lot of negativity coming from the land. But as time has gone by, it's really shifted in the energy there. And I feel very strongly that what we're doing is we're getting the ancestral people associated with the fact that there's going to be a lot of people in that area in the future. And I feel that what we've done there in raising crops that they once raised there before, it's enabling them to be comfortable with what's going to eventually happen in the building center and everything. So, in conclusion, if you guys would like to come up and take a look at the different seeds and everything that we have, feel free. But we do solicit donations because what we sometimes we pick up things that we don't necessarily build a center for in the construction of the project, as well as we like to have snacks and everything out for the volunteers while we're working. And this year we're going to be doing a pretty aggressive volunteer drive because we do have a few more things we would like to do. At the beginning, prior to the actual construction of this project, KO and I went down to Phoenix to take some courses at a National Archaeology Tucson conference, and we stopped at a lot of botanical gardens along the way. One of them was the Tucson Botanical Gardens, which I happened to be a volunteer on before native seed search started on the same complex. And I was there right when that was happening. And at the time, it was just a small building with few flower beds around the building. That was about 35 years ago. And when we walked in there and saw that place and how it was built out and everything, it just like really inspired us as far as what we'd like to do here. So we appreciate and are honored to be able to do this, and thank everybody who has worked with us in making this happen.